See, this is one of those stories that the atheist types again point to when they're making reference to the cruelty of God in the Old Testament text. It's a funny thing, because on the one hand, the authors of these stories are supposed to be naive and childlike, and on the other hand, they're capable of comprehending a deep malevolence and describing suffering. It's like, well, you could have one of those critiques, but you can't have both. Yeah. So, and there's no doubt whatsoever that those Old Testament stories deal with human frailty and malevolence and suffering very, 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 very straightforwardly and realistically. Okay, so now God calls on Abraham to sacrifice Isaac.
And it has to do with all the things we were talking about until now, which is that if you think that you completely own something, like a purpose or a goal, if you think it's only
my
for
son,
you, no matter what it is, it will become infected. It won't be affording of true purpose and true life. It always has to be given up. And you know that too, because you've talked about this so many times, which is that when you raise a child, you know that you're going to give that child away.
To what?
Yeah.
To what?
Yeah. And so you're raising the child for someone else than yourself. Like, especially the idea even that you will give
raising is the right word there.
And so you raise your daughter up. Let's say as a father, I raise my daughter and then I give her in marriage to someone else. And it's like but that's actually the only way for that to be real to me is if I understand that whatever it is that I have to offer it up towards something beyond it. And then it becomes real. As soon as I try to hold on to it.
Well, then you get it back too.
That's right.
And then
you get it in this is what Jesus says. When Jesus says, those who try to save their life will lose it.
Yeah.
Right? And those who are willing to die, willing to lose their life will gain it. And it's a structural argument. It's something that is true at every single level of being. Because, even in the structure of any object or anything that you can understand, that let's say you take a car, right? And it's like the steering wheel in the car has to offer itself to the purpose of the car.
Right.
If the steering wheel has
doing that, you hit the ditch.
Then it's like a completely ridiculous fetishized object. Like, why would it? What's the point? All the parts of the car have to give themselves to the purpose of the car. But then even that car, you have to, when you buy it, you can fetishize it, but you can also use it for higher purposes. You visit your mother.
That's the proper relationship with money, by the way.
And then that's how all being is constituted. And so Abraham, God says, I'm going to give you a son. And then Abraham has a son. And then God says basically what he's saying. He doesn't say it right away. Abraham has to go through it for real. It's not just play acting. He's basically telling Abraham, if you want your son, you first have to give him to me.
Yeah.
You have to give him up towards something which transcends you and him and everything.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then you'll get it. Then you'll get him back.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's true of anything we do. If you're fixing the roads in the city, and the person fixing the roads is doing it just for their own interest, then they'll just be corrupt. And they'll won't fix them properly. We see that all the time in systems. What you would want,
they'll avoid the labor whenever they can.
Yeah.
What
They'll
do a half-ass
job. Is someone who knows what they're doing and the reason why they're doing it, and is willing to sacrifice their attention and energy towards the purpose. And then by doing that, they actually make a better road than if they just tried to hold on to what they're doing. But that's true, like I said, of every single thing that you do all the time. And that's the sacrificial aspect of this idea of offering up.
Yeah, well, it's very practical too. I mean, the psychoanalyst, I think it was Anna Freud, but maybe not, but I think it was Anna Freud, who pointed out that the good mother necessarily fails. Okay, so one of Freud's unheralded moves of genius, with that twist in it that Freud always had, was his observation essentially that human beings have the longest dependency period of any creature. Let's say 18 years. And so what that means is that bond, the bond that makes that dependency possible, is an unbelievably powerful force. The maternal instinct, let's say, the paternal instinct as well, but we'll focus on the maternal for now. That also means it can go terribly wrong. Yeah. Right, and that happens when a mother infantilizes her child because she doesn't want to let him go, to offer him up to some higher purpose.
Yeah.
Right? There's no purpose beyond the relationship between the mother and the son, let's say. Well, that's devouring. That's the Oedipal situation. That's sleeping in the same bed as your mother, which is something that literally happens in families that are particularly Oedipal. Right. Too much closeness. Right. And so that's a failure of the mother to offer the child to something beyond herself. That's also a form of female pride. There's no position for my son or daughter that's superordinate to their affiliation to me. And so that also stops them from, that's the evil queen in Snow White as well. That'll stop the daughter from being married or the son from being married. And like I've seen this in my clinical practice where spider-like mothers will cripple their children so they never leave.
Yeah.
But then the thing is, they don't have their children.
No.
Not least often because they end up suicidal,
Yeah.
let's say. But they live in these terrible, dark households that make your soul ache when you walk into them, right? There's just catastrophe and chaos everywhere. And everyone is crippled in body and soul. And the children are in the house not because they love the mother, who they would actually like to wreak horrible revenge upon. They're afraid to leave. And so what the mother ends up with instead of love is terrified, suicidal children who've crushed everything about them that should have been encouraged so that she can feed on their corpse, fundamentally.
But
brutal.